As I was working on getting this legislation introduced, in conversation with one of the reps that I talked to, she asked that I go down and I go through key points of the legislation and kind of break them down so that she fully understood this. I'm going to go through these things. I actually came up with 15 points that were key. So this is comprehensive legislation. The first one, and this is the way I will read off what I put to these people. Um, Number one, will increase the involvement of both parents in children's lives. Society has long complained about the lack of father involvement, but it's not the father's fault here. It is the law that has allowed this to happen. U.S. Census Bureau statistics had this type of custody aligned as 85 to 15% in favor of the mothers. Number two, this will place the decisions on how to raise the family back in the hands of the family. This will encourage the mother and father to actively come to a resolution as to how the children will be handled after the dissolution of the marriage. Same is going to apply to the never married parents when they get into this. Number three, this will decrease the litigation involved in divorce. In conversation with one of the top divorce attorneys in the Columbus area, he lamented about the excessive amount of paperwork and unnecessary motions that he had to file to protect a client. He's begging to testify for this legislation. Um, this whole thing, when the no-fault divorce laws came in, they were intended to keep the children out of the middle. But unfortunately, our custody law in Ohio has now put the children back in the middle by making these changes to the custody laws of Ohio. We will take them back out. That kind of goes to point number four, which, what I said was this will decrease the impact on children as the use of pawns between two divorcing parents. The clear and convincing evidence standard will reduce the use of false allegations that have become rampant in the courts. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing now is a major increase in allegations being made through children's services to try and gain an advantage. This is very disturbing to me. It tells me that these parents are willing to do anything and everything to destroy the other parent, which is just wrong. It's also a tremendous, and I mean a tremendous, waste of taxpayer dollars. I have a father that I've been talking to who happens to be a top-rated teacher. And this man has had numerous allegations of abuse made against him. And if this continues, there's going to come a point where this man, who's an excellent teacher, very well could lose his license to teach. We can't afford to lose the good teachers. We can't afford to lose anyone in this state. Number five, we will reduce the societal cost for providing for counseling for children. We don't screw them up in the first place. We won't place that burden on the of rehabilitation on society later. Yeah, that's pretty common sense. Let's not screw them up. Let's keep both parents in. Let's keep both parents active in the children's lives, and we will not have to place that burden on every taxpayer in the future. Number 6, and this is one that a lot of people do not understand. I picked up on this a long time ago. We will benefit businesses by reducing their operating costs and lost time expenses. If the state becomes a business-friendly becomes business-friendly, it will it will have to become family-friendly first. One of the examples that comes to mind, and this goes back to when I worked in a 50-man machine shop, every machine ran every day to produce parts. When somebody had to take off for a court date because of some petty issue in the domestic relations area involving custody or whatever, their machine sat idle. That meant there were no parts produced, which was a loss of profits for the company. The worker burned a vacation day, which he was paid for. The company lost the profits from the production and the wages of the worker. The state lost income from taxes on both, and anything extra the worker would have spent on a real vacation, which would produce income down the road to others. Tricky little thing, not openly recognized as a cause and effect, but it is there. Number 7, we're going to reduce the operating costs for the domestic, juvenile, and family courts by lessening the burdens on the caseloads. Cuyahoga County domestic relations in Cleveland was spanked severely by the Ohio Supreme Court for how much they drag out these cases. This is going to streamline this so much and basically put the people that are involved, by having this presumption, into a situation where they will tend to negotiate rather than litigate. That's going to streamline and speed up the process. I know when I went through my divorce, and this has been over 16 years ago, basically the procedures that are followed in this bill are the ones that I followed, or that took place in my case. We were over and done with in 5 months. And most of that time, 3 months of it, was waiting on the courts. Not on us, on the courts. We can get this over and done with. Number 8, unintended consequence, but I believe it is one that will happen. I believe we're going to reduce the divorce rate in the state of Ohio, because we're going to, there's no advantage. There's no gain of control, so that you always have control over the other parent. This will be the strongest presumption anywhere in the nation as we go through. We're going to improve education. Mothers and fathers approach subjects with their children on the education things in different subjects. Their strength they have the strength at, and they teach things differently. We've seen a tremendous drop in math and science, which is the male strength. I think we're going to be able to bring that back up. Every case does not require that you have equal custody, but it's the starting point. And the final decision is actually placed in the parents' hands. You're going to be able to tailor your custody arrangement to a need that fits your family. And that's a key. We can't, that gets that third party out of jumping into the family. So, this really puts the strength back with the family. The judges have said that this bill, they're against it because they say it gets rid of their judicial discretion. This is a big misnomer on their part. It actually, what it does is it gives them proper direction on how to go on this legislation or in these cases. I mean, let's face it, their discretion has run wild for too long, and consequently, we're paying the price. They really have caused the problem, and their continued discretion will continue to cause the problem. They're not losing their discretion. They're going to have to try cases the way cases should be tried, based on fact, not on fantasy. This does handle a conflict that we have in Ohio law. Juvenile courts and domestic relations courts. Juvenile courts handle children's services type issues and handle never married parents issues, while the domestic courts will handle divorce issues. They work on a different evidentiary standard. This will unify that, and it gives everybody, puts everybody on the same page so that everybody is working in the same direction as we move forward with this. It's needed. You can't, we've gone to a unified, in some counties, unified family court system. You've got them ruling differently based on whether it's filed as a juvenile case or filed as a divorce. That's just doesn't make sense. One of the biggest opponents of this, or opponents to these changes, will be the domestic violence people. They were before, they will continue to be. Guess what, people? It doesn't touch the domestic violence laws. It does eliminate the need or the use of false allegations of violence, but domestic violence is a criminal act. It's not a matter for the civil courts. Civil courts don't have any business in it. This does not eliminate child support, but it does reform the application of deviations. The courts have always had the ability to deviate, but they rarely have taken advantage of it. What we're going to do, in a lot of cases, what we have is we have parents that have custody on a split 50-50 amount of time, but they're paying child support like they're on a standard every other weekend type basis. We're going to get rid of that. The courts are going to be required to deviate based on the amount of time. Now, with that presumption of equality on custody, you're going to get there, and you're going to be able to do this. So if you go to a 50-50, you deviate to 50-50, and it's based on your true income, because you're going to have to use clear and convincing evidence. It gets, you got to deviate, you got a time split that's more in the 40-60 range. All right, then you're going to get your child support awarded and, set based on that amount. This is the fairest system. Funny thing is, the last task force on child support in Ohio recommended this to the legislature. Many of these changes that are here because of recommendations that have been made to the legislature in the past. It's now time that this legislature lives up to what it has been told and does what's right for the families of Ohio. Let's get this passed, and passed now. Thank you. More later.